Welcome to Within WordPress. With me today is Juan Hernando. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Nice to be here.
Yeah. Well, here you're in Spain and I'm here in the Netherlands, but yeah.
I feel so close to you.
Oh, this is getting scary really fast, and we've done that within the minute. That's cool. You and I go back quite a while, but let's assume nobody knows who you are, and could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Juan Hernando. I'm living in Pontevedra in Galicia, northwest of Spain. And I work on WordPress community engagement at Weglot. And I'm also a program manager at the global community team at WordPress. And I've always been a front-end web developer. But then I found the events and all the community stuff, and I'm doing less and less work on websites and more on getting people together.
So you're evolving.
Yes. I'm moving away from clients.
You're probably not alone in wanting to do that type of move and potentially, focus on different things. It's funny that we start with this, but it's a trend that I've been seeing for the last, 2-3 years. There's a change. There's certain people who go like, I've done this client work for 15 years. I'm okay with it to move on to something else. Is that something? Is it something like that for you, or?
Yes, I've been working with clients for, I made my first website from page 98, something like that. So it's been a long time. And at some point you decide this is enough because you are worrying, like being a freelancer also, it's like you're worrying about so many stuff all the time. And and you find clients that sometimes they are not like the nicest ones, and all those experiences end up like, hey, I want to do something different at some point. And if you have like some opportunities and you are making like a good network of known people and all that, it's easier after a while to try to change stuff. And as I always say, you can always come back to making websites, but it's a good moment for trying new stuff.
Provided you keep up with the new technologies, because, it's always been a fast-moving world, but it's most certainly a fast-moving world now.
Yes, and for example, and talking about WordPress, I saw that like when I started, like I usually like make a WordPress theme, and I used underscores, and then you do all the work. And in the last years, everything has changed so much that even when you start a new project, it's like, I need to think a lot about how are we going to do this? What's going to be the structure? What tools are we going to use? And all that. It's a lot of things to keep up on the pace of the change. It's not an easy thing to do when you're a freelancer.
No, I get that. I get that very much. You said you are working at Weglot. I know what Weglot is, but maybe tell a little bit more about the company you work for.
Well, Weglot, it's like magic for me and for the clients. Weglot, it's the way of the solution for translating websites without any technical effort. So it's like a software as a service, and it works with any CMS, even if there is no CMS. So it works in WordPress, but also Webflow, Squarespace, Shopify, and it's a way to mix machine translations and also human translations to get the best result, SEO optimized, and a way to focus only on localization and your strategy, and not having to think about the technical stuff. So it's like press a button and you have your website translated, and now it's time to do the rest of the work.
It's one of the solutions out there for translations that I've always recommended because it solves a problem without introducing new problems. There are, and we shall not name it, but there are translation solutions out there that are just, they're never stable. They're always buggy. They're always causing problems. I see them in my performance reviews a lot. And then there's translation solutions such as Weglot that just work. I have a few clients running on Weglot, and what I like about it, that even in some outlier languages, because my native language is Frisian, not a lot of people speak that, maybe 350,000, and it just works. It translates, it does the thing, and for the clients that I have, it's perfect because they're as non-technical as it gets, and they rely on me to give them a solution that, doesn't introduce headaches. What I've noticed and what I'm quite curious about, because I don't know how much you've listened, dear listener, to a previous episode, or you, Juan, but one of the topics that keeps popping up a lot is AI. And especially for a translation plugin, the topic of AI is super relevant because, in my opinion, the quality of the correctness of the actual translation, and again, I'm using a niche language, so it's even easier for me to gauge how effective it is, because from French to English and from English to Spanish, I don't suspect there to be a lot of issues because it's a wide use language on both ends. So, but I see so much improvement in there that I go is this a challenge for Weglot, or is Weglot entirely embracing it?
Yeah, it's super important part because we have to make like a differentiation. Like sometimes people think about translating like it's like putting your website in Google Translate or DeepL and then extract the words there and put them in your site. And it's a totally different thing. I mean, of course, the basic is that, but there are so many things going now with AI that, for example, we've launched a few weeks ago, like a content model, a language model based on AI that helps you improve the voice of your translations. Because, for example, one thing I find it because I speak Spanish and I'm living in a Galician region, and my website it's also in English, and I have a very personal voice, and when I write a blog post, it's not easy for any translation, automatic translation thing to find the right tone or the jokes or the style.
Yeah.
And now with this language model, I can teach Weglot, hey, this is my style. So take this into account of everything I'm gonna write. It's like when you translate, don't do it like a professional thing or a very serious thing. Like I'm half joking. You need to make this sound well in English too. And those are things that we are using from the power of AIs that people are getting used to ask ChatGPT or whatever, like write this in a very professional, serious way or something like that, or write this email for my boss, those kind of stuff. And we are doing that also for the translations, like, hey, this website is this and that, or use this glossary. And it also learns from all the translations you've already done. So it's like a lot of things going together to try to find the best translation and the best output in there.
I like that. That's an interesting approach. So instead of going like, here's AI and we don't know what to do with it, you're going very specifically, let us fully embrace AI, but we also, are going to tackle the issues that you have there. And I get the tone of voice thing. I think we have, you and I, if we ever look at a default WordPress installation that is United States English. Now there's a lot of howdy and whoopsie and, cheating A type of stuff that maybe that works in American English. I can't really judge, but it's for sure does not work in Dutch. It does not work in Frisian. It comes across crass even. I'm assuming this is the same in Spanish or Galician or whatever. And to then, so for instance, I'm part of the Polyglots team for the Netherlands. And one of the things we've decided, and this is years ago, one of the things we decided is that we're going to change the tone of voice of the translations as well. So it's less of a direct translation. It's more of a, what are we trying to say here type of translation. Are you saying that that's the type of stuff that Weglot now does automatically or allows to fine tune and ultimately automatically does?
Exactly. It's in the end, we are using AI as a tool for helping us. And the same as we do it in any other, like writing content or emails or whatever, it's also what we want with translations. Of course, for any website or any project, the human touch is what is most important. And we've talked about that a lot. Weglot and the translation part is only the first step of an internationalization strategy, because localization is very, very important. And when we are talking about websites like a shop or e-commerce and all that, it's super important if we are moving to other markets that we adjust our message to every different. So it's not just a language thing. And with this kind of improvements from AI, we are also making this easier for the user. Of course, you are going to have to touch things and review, but if you, instead of doing it like for every translation, you can set some instructions, like you said, to this model.
Yeah.
Okay, we are using this and that and that. Let's do it from now on for all the translations. That's going to be a time-saving, a lot of time saved for your clients. So it's like using a tool to improve, and in the end, what we want is that the clients don't have to spend so much time in their website, because probably their business is another thing. And thinking about the strategy.
That's a safe assumption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thinking about the strategies and making it happen, it's really, really important when we are talking about internationalization and localization and all that.
How do you look at I guess I can only speak from personal experience, right? So if you look at a language that has a specific way of expressing itself, it does that in a website, it does that with language itself, but also how the text is presented, the type of images are used, the general layout, design, all of these things. If you're not bilingual, you're probably not aware, but there is a difference in how certain things are done in certain cultures /locale/ whatever. How does Weglot look at that? Because that's an interesting thing. If we're looking at optimizing for the locale, is that something that's on your radar, or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or is that fully manual?
No, if we can. Well, there are a lot of tools to inside our dashboard to try to modify the images or the text, or this has to be translated, or this not, or this has to appear, or this not. Because, as you said, like it's many times it's a totally different target, the people from another language or another place or another country. even in the same language. I see that a lot, like when people make websites in Spanish, but it was done by someone in Argentina, and it's like a totally different language from Spain. It's like the same words, or not even the same words.
But yeah.
But we understand that, but it's not, you only have to read like one sentence to know that that website is not talking to you. So we are focused on these kind of experiences and offer all the tools to make these things as easy as possible.
What is the biggest challenge there? Because I think from a technical standpoint, the tools that we have available, I mean, like in general, what AI can do is just mind-blowing, and we're just getting started here. But what are the things that are still challenging to solve?
Well, as a freelancer that have worked with clients for so many years, probably letting the client know what they need. And that's the most difficult part. I mean, I'm tired. Like, one of the best things of this solution for me, not talking as part of Weglot, but as a person that have dealt with lots of clients in the past, I was so tired of doing multilingual websites where the only blog post or the only news that was translated was the "Welcome to our new website." And that was in Spanish, Galician, and English. And that was the only one. And then if they wrote more in their news section, it was only made in Spanish, for example. No other translations, because they weren't going to spend time or effort on learning how to do that or translating that and all that. So most of the time, it's not the technical part of it, but the willingness to do it and to have a clear view of why we are doing this and where are we going with this, and getting real results from that. Like, sometimes people do only that because there is a law that it makes it mandatory or something like that, and it's like, and they are missing on a lot of money that they are leaving on the table, because they are not seeing how, for example, where I live, we are very close to Portugal. Like, it's 1 hour from here. I'm there. And of course, Portuguese people can buy in a website in Spanish, the same as I can buy in a website in Portuguese. But if the translation is well done and they have a website for me, I would totally buy more there. And of course, this is just an example. We have lots of examples and numbers and reports about this kind of stuff. But still, many people are not seeing the possibilities out there. So for me, that's the biggest challenge, to make them know that okay, of course, you have to do an effort and you have to make an investment in this, but it's really worth it.
But you're saying the challenge, as always, is the people.
Yes, totally.
Yeah, I can't say I'm surprised by that answer.
I mean, I would say like, no,
Yeah,
but this is like how this works, and to do a better, I don't know. Like technically, there are very intelligent people making awesome solutions, and they are improving it like day by day. So of course, there are things that are still challenging, and of course,
sure,
there are. I mean, of course, in the future, it would be great to just say, hey, as we were talking about the instructions, like, this is my tone of voice. I want to use these words. You are not going to translate this and this and that, and press the button, and you don't have even to review it because you know it's going to be done perfect. Right now, we're in the middle of doing that, but I assume that in the future, with the better models, we can be closer to a really good personal translation here, because we don't want mean, it's the same. Like authenticity and sounding as you are or as your brand are is super important in this case.
That is the ultimate challenge, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I see that as well. The authenticity is probably the biggest thing you need to be concerned about for any web presence, whatever way you do it.
Yeah, the same as you don't want.
Speaking of
no, I was just going to say that the same as you don't want a photo on your website with a person with 6 or 7 fingers. You don't want anyone to read your content and say, what's this? Like, this was made by a machine and no one review it or something like that.
Yeah. I was going to say, speaking of authenticity, you have a specific role at Weglot. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I'm doing, like, I have 2 different hats in Weglot, and the first one, which is why I'm here, it's like to improve let's say, the knowledge about Weglot and the involvement of Weglot in the WordPress community. So I'm also helping them. Like, Weglot is a small company, French company, 50 people. It's growing a lot, but they don't have like the resources to say, okay, we are going to have a team focused on communities or the WordPress community and all that. So they decided to like get someone that was already there, which was me in this case. After I met them, probably in WordCamp Europe in Berlin, I think it was the first time I went there and say hi to them. And
2019.
I'm going, as I'm already part of the community, I'm doing like this kind of ambassador or connecting people. That's what I would like to say, because I don't feel like I'm not good at, well, not good. I'm not a commercial person, so I'm not gonna sell you the product, but I would like also to always to connect people from different parts of the whole community or the ecosystem. And it's like, hey, maybe this is good for you, or I know someone that can be helpful for this or for that. So I feel like a connector inside the community for them. So it's also a way to open the door for partnerships or for different needs they have, so they don't have to start from scratch.
Yep.
And I already have the contacts or know the people. And the second part, it's they are sponsoring my time in the community team. So I started a long time ago. Well, not 9 years ago, not that long. You were already a veteran when I started. I started with a small meetup where I live. Went to my first WordCamp, met some people. They told me, hey, you should start a meetup. So I started a meetup. Then I started a local WordCamp. I had so much fun. I started traveling. I went to WordCamp Europe. I said, ooh, this is super fun. I want to be part of this. So
Which one was your first?
It was Berlin, 2019.
Oh, okay, yeah.
People think that I've been here for long, but it's all because of the pandemic. Because after 2019, I said, I want to be part of this. So I said, I want to be organizer for 2020. It's going to be in Porto. It's 1.5 hours from where I live. Best opportunity ever. I love the Portuguese people. But then something happened in 2020. And organizing that event took 3 years. So that's why people think I've been there forever, because I was 3 years for organizing one event. And then I started I was leading a team, and at some point it's too much. I'm sure we will talk about this, but it was a lot of time I had to spend organizing things. And at some point I said, okay, this is not sustainable. I cannot do this if I have to spend all my free time doing things for the community. And then Weglot came and said, okay, we can sponsor you some hours so you don't have to spend all your free time in this, and you can get less of your work. And so that's how it started. And then years has passed, and I started getting more responsibility inside the community team. And in the last months, I'm spending half of my life in the Slack and helping people with their events all over the world and all that. And it's thanks to their support. And it's great that there are some companies that they are not only sponsoring people inside their people, but also sponsoring others out there that they are already doing things, they are already contributing, and the impact of those contributions is super high. So that's what I do with Weglot. Like half of my time it's helping them, and half of my time it's like helping the project.
Yeah, I'd like to emphasize the importance of the sponsoring of people working on the WordPress project that are not working on just core, because for a lot of people contributing to WordPress, a contribution is seen as, I changed some code, I offered it, it was accepted, I contributed, but it's so much more. Obviously, there's things like translation, but yeah, there's organizing events. There's, just go to make.wordpress.org and see all the teams that are there, and that's not even covering everything. There are so many opportunities to contribute to WordPress, and having companies out there that sponsor people that specifically do not work on core, as important as that is, but I applaud that a lot.
Yeah, my first contact with contributing was the Polyglots team. And I remember we translated WooCommerce to Spanish because it was like half done. And it was super exciting. And it was, we had like a little competition inside, like who has more strings translated and all that. And it was super powerful to realize that what we were doing was helping thousands of Spanish-speaking people out there to have their websites and their admins and everything translated to their own language, and that's super important in every language. Like I know, like Weglot is also sponsoring Pedro from the Portuguese community, and I remember the first time I talked with him a long time ago. It's like, I'm the only one translating everything to Portuguese, and I don't have time for doing that. But the whole community depends on that person that is doing that. And then it's like, hey, let's find some support for you. It really works, and it's super important. And people don't realize, like, and maybe this is something. We are always talking about English and people from the US, or like this is a discussion that everyone in local communities has, and probably in Europe is very significant. Like sometimes the project has this view, that's US centric view, and that's why we always have like this question in WordCamp Europe about when are we going to have the multilingual WordPress and all that kind of things.
Yes.
And you realize that there are so many people contributing to make the tool available in every language. Like, I don't know what's the count of languages that we have now in WordPress, but it's a lot. And it's super important that people can use the WordPress in their own language. And there are hundreds of volunteers doing that contribution. And we should celebrate them.
Yeah. I think it's the easiest way to get into contribution, actually. If I look at myself, I started using WordPress in a more professional way in 2006. I was annoyed by how bad the Dutch translations were, one, and two, how, 2, 3, maybe 4 months later after a release, that's when we would see an updated version. And I'd be like, that's annoying. So I started looking into how did this work. I found out there's a translations team, sort of. Got involved, didn't move fast enough. So I offered to take over how that worked. I did. And, one of the first goals that I had is whenever the next WordPress release is there, I want to have it translated within 24 hours. So you would start translating as you were doing it, and we would have the same type of competitions, who was there faster and all that sort of stuff. But the end result is A, I got to know WordPress really well. B, I got to know people really well in the community. And C, I got to understand there's so much more that I can do or contribute to and help with and play with and do all that sort of stuff. So for me, that was really the catalyst. I was already using WordPress, but the catalyst into doing much more with WordPress is, so I think it took about 2 years. So in 2008, I started becoming let's call it the Dutch, whatever you call it. I'm sure there's a word for it.
Yeah, local
editor. Of the translations, the forums, but also the forum, also the releases and all that sort of stuff. At the time, that wasn't automated. But that's how you get involved. And because I was essentially just solving my own problem, right?
Yeah.
I just wanted to have better translations.
To be honest, my first translation, like the moment where I decided I need to understand how this works, it was a very, very stupid thing. Like in the main navigation bar, like you have when you're in your dashboard, there is this thing that said visit site, and if you have WooCommerce installed, it said visit shop. And in Spanish, it was translated. The visit site, it was okay, but visit shop, it had capitalization in the second word. And that's not how we write here.
Oh.
Like we only put capital letter in the first word. And it was driving me mad. Like, why do I have the visit site okay and the visit shop with 2 capital letters? And it's like, I need to find how to change this. And I did. I really did. And that was the first one. I said, okay, now let's translate another 5,000 strings. But you see that
for the rest of my life, every month
you start solving your own problem, and then you help others. And you see, I really like that from the translations or from the events, like the impact you can make with, I'm not going to say a little effort, but hey, you don't have to be, because I understand that for dealing with core and those kind of things, you need to know, and you have to be a developer, and you have to know the tooling and everything. But for making a translation or helping in an event, I mean, it's easier, way easier.
You just need a keyboard.
Yeah. And some willingness to do it, or someone to push you.
Yeah, sure. But I do the same thing when there's a translation currently. So some plugin I'll use for a client, and I'm in their dashboard fixing, looking at whatever, and I find a translation. I go, who approved this? Now, I can find who approved it, sure. I can find who translated, sure. But, I'm not going to shame them. But what I am going to do is fix it. And if it's something that's of importance, then I'll change it in the glossary as well. So, the next one translating something similar will have better input in how it's supposed to be translated. But I'd say I quite regularly do I find strings that I go, no. This is not how we say it. In Dutch, there's a way where you can translate it very literally, and it's technically correct. But there's not a single soul on the planet in the whole of the Netherlands speaking Dutch that would say it like that. So, we don't We don't translate it like
and
that.
we are seeing that that's a problem of people abusing AI for these kind of things. So we come back to the beginning because we are seeing in many translations, like people are throwing the strings into an AI, getting the translated output, and that's not up to the standards of good translation. And it's becoming a problem for some of the reviewers and the local editors and all that, because they are finding thousands of strings that they are only wasting their time. So I know they are working
we see that too in
improving that process and all that. But it's the kind of thing that sometimes people believe, okay, I need something translated. I will just use this. And that's, I mean, they are words and they are words in that language, but they are not doing their work. Like, it's not usable for anyone. So it's where the manual part and the localization part comes again.
Yep. It's again the people that make it break or fail or succeed.
Thankfully, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I say that in jest, of course, but so you mentioned 2019 being your first WordCamp Europe. You mentioned you got really excited and wanting to do more. You ended up doing a whole hell of a lot more even. I know what that is, but instead of me introducing it, why don't you say it?
Well, this ends up last year in 2024 in Torino, going on stage on the opening remarks and talk in English to, I don't know how many people were there, but almost 2,000 people. I've never been in front of such a crowd speaking in English. And it's like, I remember that morning thinking, what have I done to be here?
Why did I say yes?
At what point I said, okay, let's organize a small meetup in the city where I'm going to live now. And I end up leading a team of 90 organizers, making an event in a city I didn't know. And I had traveled 3 times that year and making an event for 3,000 people. It's super cool. Of course, it's not going from one point to the other directly. I was in 2020. I was a regular organizer, and then for 2022, I think 2022 it was 2022 was Porto
in Greece.
And 2023,
22 was Porto, 23 was Greece. Yeah.
So those 2 years, I was a team lead. I was part of the budget team. So I was also known as the no team, because we were the ones responsible to say no to all the crazy and expensive ideas. Because
first of all, that's a great question, but the answer is no.
Exactly.
Next,
because you know it well. Like, you were in the first WordCamp Europe, and you've seen how it's been growing, and it's, I mean, if you take a look at the current budget of WordCamp Europe in comparison what it was 10, 12 years ago,
it's gone exponentially high.
So at some point, I think it was more or less at that time after Belgrade, everything went like, okay, this is going to be a super event. And I don't know if there wasn't the pandemic. I don't know where we were, because it was growing and growing. And in Berlin, it was a huge attendance and a huge event.
Yeah, so Berlin was up towards 3.5, right? So what I've learned having organized the first as a lead, you have full insight in what's going on. And at a certain point, the teams become more dedicated, so you had less insight into what the separate teams were doing. But as we were growing consciously. So not doing wild stuff, but trying to get most for our bang for our buck, as they so eloquently say in the US. And at some point, and I think the tipping point is probably Vienna, the venue cost became so much higher, the attendance became so much higher, and it's not a linear thing. It's more like the more amount of people, the almost double more the amount of money you need for various other things, because at some point you're forced into thinking about childcare. Yeah, you're forced into thinking about, all the extra facilities that you may need, maybe bigger events insurance, maybe bigger availability for the event team themselves, right? The venue where you rent the space and everything. So the costs go up way higher than the attendance. And I think kind of from that point on, it started becoming more and more challenging. The last one I organized, I had less insight into it even, which was Porto. But I ended up not being in the final team because I made a decision to, after 15 years of organizing WordCamps, it's fine. Somebody else can take over the baton. But the challenge, certainly for the last, 2022, 3, 4, and 5 now, for sure are much higher in terms of the impact, the budget, the quality of talks and everything. Everything is under way more scrutiny. Everything is under more pressure.
Yeah. And the good thing, and that's one, when I started doing this, apart from improving my English, which more or less I've done it, but it was to learn.
You're quite understandable.
Thank you.
Juan.
But it was to learn also new skills that I didn't have as a freelance developer.
Yeah.
So when you start working with a team of 70, 80, 90 people, and you start getting responsibility as a team lead or as the lead organizer, you have to trust people a lot. You have to learn how to work with volunteers, which is very different from working with in a company.
Employees.
And you have to learn how to deal with the unexpected, which also happens a lot. And all those things are super important for anyone, and dealing with conflict and trying to help people, because we become a family. We work together for 9 months to create a thing that lasts 2 days and a half. And it's an amazing experience. But as I said, at some point, you need to find a balance between what you want to do and what you can do, and what they are, and how is the money entering your home, because people get really excited about this.
True words.
But of course, we even need to like, I have friends here, like we have a very active local community in Galicia, and I have friends here that I know they would do an amazing job at WordCamp Europe. But I tell them, please don't do it now, because you are also a freelancer, and it's going to be a lot of hours of your time.
It's a
and
challenge.
You're going to do it once.
Yeah, the challenge of...
And then you will burn out and you will stop, because you cannot do it in a sustainable way.
Yeah. It's quite different from the early days in terms of, I mean, it was very time consuming, the first 4 or 5 that I did. Sure. But there, you make a way that it works. And with all the extra teams and all the extra stuff you need to take care of, there's a certain limit. You go like, now it's costing me money, not just time. Now it's costing me money. And up to a very large point, I was okay with that because I was doing okay. But it's a very valid question that if you're doing this for the first time, it's very difficult to predict beforehand how much time is going to go into the thing. Because let alone the meetings and stuff, because there's way more meetings and all that sort of stuff. But there's also the mental time.
Yeah.
Like in your downtime, you're still thinking about it. So how much rest are you getting? And for me, that was ultimately, after so many years, I was like, that's fine. I started it. I set it up. I contributed more than my fair share, I think. And it, like I said, it's fine for other people to take over. But the realization is it's more like sponsored people who are in one way or another helped by their employer or an outside company. The reality is that that's the ones who can continue to finance these events, these nonprofit events. And it's good that we actually touch on this topic, because I think it's important for people to understand how that has changed and how much of an impact it has on both the positive and the negative. Don't get me wrong, but it's for sure not just positive.
And sometimes small contribution, and it's good. We are seeing that more and more, like some big companies sponsoring people like 2 hours a week, and that's, I mean, many big companies maybe spend more in coffee capsules in one morning than paying these 2 hours a week to a person. And for that person can be a huge help for them to say, okay,
it can be life-changing.
I can help here and there, and I don't have to take all this time from my free time. And it really works well, and we are seeing more and more companies. But I don't think they are. And there we have all these conversations about the Fight for the Future and all that, and the visibility that the companies get, and we should talk more about the companies that are already doing that, because it's something very unknown in the community, and thankfully there are more and more people getting this kind of external sponsorship, let's say that way. And that's what makes the difference, because in a local WordCamp, we all been there, and we can, of course, it's a lot of own responsibility, like we want to welcome everyone and all that. But for flagship events, right now it's totally different. There are a lot of specialization, and everyone wants to do their best and say, hey, I've been part of this, and each team, they want to be the best at their thing and all that. So even as what we were talking, like what I've been learning these years, because right now this year in 2025, I was one of the mentors, and I will be one of the mentors also for 2026. One of the things is to talk with the organizers and try to tell them, okay, it's nice, it's great what you are doing, but don't feel so much pressure, because most of the time it's from themselves. And it's like, we don't want anyone to feel indispensable. And it's like, hey, if at some point you or me or whoever of the team says, okay, I'm leaving, it's totally fine. The event will happen even without you. And that's why we have such big teams, because even if we have many other details, as you said in the beginning, you were a small team, and I'm totally sure that right now a small team with the production company can make the event happen. But we decide to go and have bigger teams. So there are more people that learn the job. More people learn what has to be done.
It's a job.
More people get the skills, and nothing happens if one or two or three from that team disappear at some point, because life happens. So it's good to get more people involved from many different communities from all over the world. So it's a great experience, challenging, but it's great.
It is. And on that bombshell, not a bombshell, on that note, It was great for you to come on the podcast. Thank you for sharing your experience and information there. Thank you, Weglot, for sponsoring you, because I think that's something we should start emphasizing more. Thank you so much, Juan.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be here. And yeah, anytime. And I will see you in the next WordCamp Europe for sure.
Oh, for sure. Possibly even sooner.
Great.